I'm Jim Hummel, and this month's Rhode Island Spotlight profiles the state's oldest child welfare organization. For 180 years, Children's Friend has been serving the state's most vulnerable children and their families. Our Spotlight this month is sponsored by Panera Bread and its parent company, the Howley Bread Group, which, as you'll see, has been a generous supporter of the organization's annual holiday drive. All day long, the gifts kept coming and coming and coming. An outpouring of generosity that would ultimately brighten the holidays for nearly 1,400 needy families in Rhode Island. Welcome to the annual Spirit of Giving holiday drive for Children's Friend, Rhode Island's oldest child welfare organization, founded in 1834.
We only serve the most vulnerable kids in Rhode Island.
Executive Director David Caprio has been with Children's Friend for 15 years. He says the nonprofit organization continues to carry out the mission that its founder, Harriet Ware, had in the 1830s. Ware was recruited from Massachusetts to be a school teacher. She wound up establishing a home for unwanted and abandoned children in Providence, some as young as 6 years old. But it wasn't just an orphanage. Harriet wanted to educate the children as well, something that was very progressive at the time. The kids were eventually placed for adoption. The founders included some of the most prominent families in Rhode Island.
The Browns, the Lippett's, the Chafees, women coming together and saying, gosh, you know, we see kids abandoned on the street. Unwanted kids were abandoned on the street. There was no organization, there was no governmental agency that took care of poor, neglected children.
For the better part of the past 2 centuries, the organization has been a trendsetter. In the 1920s, placing children who had been living at this home into foster homes, unheard of at the time. In 2015, what was once known as Children's Friend and Service has evolved into an organization that runs Head Start programs like this one at 10 sites throughout Providence, Pawtucket, and Central Falls, serving 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds. Tracy Braz recently became a Head Start supervisor after working as a teacher for nearly 30 years.
What's it like working with kids this age?
I think it's the most rewarding experience you could ever have. The impact on the children, and it's just enormous. The love and support that you can give them, they give back tenfold, and I don't know of any other profession that maybe you would find that.
Elisa DeMattos has been a Head Start teacher for 26 years, the last 5 at Children's Friend. Every day she gets a first-hand look at the effect the program is having on her preschoolers.
Do you think about where some of these kids would be if they weren't in a Head Start program?
I think they would be less prepared. It's just the social skills, the interaction with the other children, following routine. I think if what we do with them, it helps them be successful in kindergarten, because basically all those little things that, you know, sometimes we might think it doesn't matter, being able to sit in the circle time, answering questions back and forth. If they don't have that, when they get to kindergarten, they might have social skills problems.
It comes as no surprise that the holiday season can be one of the toughest for their clients, because Children's Friend matches individual needs of each family with specific gifts. Planning for the holiday drive actually begins in the summer.
Kids are all talking about we're going to get presents and we're going to get new clothing, and what is a family that has absolutely no resources going to do? What are they going to do then? And that's where the holiday drive comes in.
Think about Christmas or Hanukkah in your house. Then think about this.
There's a lot of basic things in there, like a new coat, like gloves, like socks, blankets, some real basic necessities that a lot of us take for granted and that our kids don't have. And they certainly never get items like that new. A brand new piece of clothing is a great Christmas present.
9 days before Christmas, an army of managers from Panera Bread cafes in Rhode Island and Massachusetts descended on the parking lot of Children's Friend with hundreds of gifts in hand, led by Panera operating partner Bajat Sharif. We interviewed Caprio the day after the gift drive.
Each of their cafes and bakeries throughout the state and around the state in southeastern Massachusetts also, they break up those families and they put up little tags at the registers, and their customers and employees take those tags, go out and buy a gift, bring it back to the Panera, Panera then accumulates all those gifts, brings them all in, which was just overwhelming for me to see that yesterday. That represents literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people associated with Panera Bread, whether they're employees or customers, giving something to someone they don't know, but they may know something about from the wish list, but they don't know that person. And they're trusting Panera, they're trusting Children's Friend, and they're trusting our workers to make sure that's put to good use.
Other corporations and individuals have helped grow the holiday drive every year. So much so that the overflow of donations is now put in a building across the street before being distributed to the families.
I've actually seen some of the deliveries where a child opened a gift and they had a sweater and there was a tag on it, and they've never had a piece of clothing with a tag on it before, and that was so exciting.
While the holiday drive is a high-profile event, Children's Friend runs nearly 24 programs the rest of the year that include family counseling, adoption, foster care, child care, and pregnancy counseling. And 5 years ago, it started a Dads Making a Difference program, since much of the focus has traditionally been on mothers. Chuck Field was a divorced father of 2 when he was hired to work in the program.
A lot of the challenges that I had, again being the divorced dad, I've been able to take some of that experience and dovetail it into my job here. Navigating the child support system, navigating through visitation schedules and things like that.
Jim Alexander has worked with the DADS program for 5 years.
But a lot of them are struggling to try to stay connected to their children without all the conditions that they have to meet.
One of the strengths about the DADS program is I don't have a master's degree in fatherhood education. I'm a dad, and the whole team, we approach it just like we're brothers. Do you know what I mean? So when somebody's having a hard time, the DADS work is there to pick them up, help them move on.
Like many nonprofits, Children's Friend faces the yearly challenges of limited resources and a growing need. But Caprio says the daily results he sees across the organization put those challenges in perspective.
When I'm having a bad day or I just forget what it's all about, I can walk a few blocks and go into one of our classrooms, or I can walk to one of the groups that one of our programs is running and just see the impact that our workers are having. You see happy kids, safe kids who are being challenged. You see parents who are engaged, who are also challenged and who are learning new skills, and you're like, wow, this is what it's all about. You're making a difference.
In Providence, Jim Hummel for the Rhode Island Spotlight.